All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Treebwasser. I'm a NABA board member, a manager at Politics and Prose Bookstore in DC, and your host for Late Night with Rachel Bloom and Ben Philippe. I've got a few housekeeping items before we get to the really cool main event. First, I'd like to thank our conference sponsors whose support has helped make this event happen. Thanks to HarperCollins, Hachette, Simon & Schuster, Sourcebooks, Blackstone Publishing, Scholastic, and the Penguin Random House. Also, a quick reminder that we are to follow the conference's code of conduct. Please remember that we're all considered competitors and there can be no discussion on terms or boycotts. And please read the policies on the New Voices New Room website. I'll give everyone like a good 25-30 minutes to read that and then we'll move on. Just kidding. We'll be doing, if time allows, we'll be doing a question and answer at the end of the chat. So if you do have a question, feel free to start putting those in the Q&A. We'll get to those as much as we can. But now, on to the main event. Very excited to introduce our first guest, Rachel Bloom, along with her upcoming book, collection of essays called I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are. I have been singing that pretty much ever since I've discovered the book. Rachel is best known as the star and co-creator of the CW musical dramedy Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, for which she earned a Golden Globe and a Critics' Choice Award for her performance as Rebecca Bunch, as well as an Emmy Award for the show's songwriting. Her book is a collection of laugh-out-loud funny essays that tell it all, from her love of Disney, OCD, depression, weirdness, Spanx, all as part of an exploration of how she has felt different and out of place her whole life. And it's already garnering praise from none other than Mindy Kaling and Sarah Silverman. Mindy wrote, "It's nice to know someone as talented as Rachel is also pretty weird. If you're like me and love Rachel Bloom, this hilarious, personal book will make you love her even more." And Sarah wrote, "There's something that I love a lot that people don't acknowledge as a thing, and it's heartbreaking comedy. This book is that. Read it, you will laugh while you're crying and cry while you're laughing. Treat yourself to the heartbreaking comedy that is the life of Rachel Bloom. I have already started reading it. It is laugh out loud funny." So without further ado, Rachel Bloom.
Hi. Hello, everybody. I had a whole intro prepared in my notes about like talking about how weird I am, but then I forgot that these quotes were going to get read. So for those of you who don't know me, Michael, should I speak to you directly as if like my speech is just to you?
Sure, why not? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to put my notes then right here.
Yeah.
I set up a whole teleprompter system for myself, but this is a conversation. Oh, yeah. Great. So yeah, Michael, you know I'm weird. I helped make a show about a woman who leaves her prestigious law firm in New York City to pursue her summer camp ex-boyfriend in West Covina, California. And the show touched on themes of mental health and romantic obsession, but also had songs called Period Sex and The First Penis I Saw. So needless to say, as my friend said, I am very weird. And that's what the book is. As you sang so beautifully, if Ariel were weird, she would sing, I want to be where the normal people are. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well, so I'm glad they didn't do it that way. But anyway, I feel like I'm sort of a weird Ariel in that I've always felt a kinship with Disney princesses, except my life is nothing like them and I don't look like them. So this book is kind of a non-linear but thematic exploration of my relationship to the idea of normalcy. So a little about me. I grew up in this beautiful beach suburb of California called Manhattan Beach, California. And I didn't fit in at all. While other kids were thinking about surfing, I was thinking about death. When they were reading Little Women, I was reading The Exorcist. That was in 8th grade. While kids played soccer on the weekends, I was playing Sondheim. I was very proud of that sentence. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't like everyone else, but I didn't know how to become like everyone else. I thought that there was some sort of lesson I was missing. Like, was there some sort of Sunday school for normalcy? Like, was it like Hebrew school, except like actually useful and informative? I didn't know. And writing this book felt very appropriate because the one place that I felt like I fit in middle school, which was my worst time, was in my school's creative writing club. There was this woman named Ms. Porter. She was very cool. She was the first teacher I ever had who asked us to use the word Ms. And she wore these hemp ponchos and had frizzy hair and glasses, and like in retrospect, totally smoked a lot of weed. Even though I didn't know it at the time, I like knew it at the time, you know? And every Wednesday, she created a space for people who didn't fit in to come and like vomit their issues out on the page. And that's how I started writing. And so before I tell you any more about the book, I think that the book's theme can actually be summed up in a poem I wrote in this creative writing club at age 12. It's a very long poem, so I will only read an excerpt. The poem is appropriately called Normal. What is normal? Every day we hear it is something everyone should be. But should they really? What is the so-called standard that we mold and fit ourselves through an invisible corset to be accepted in society all our life? I promise this is a poem because it's written like a poem, but it's basically like a paragraph. Who is normal? Your neighbors? Your dog? Your Freddie Prinze Jr. lookalike crush? In 1999, that was like very topical. What appears to be normal may in fact be the opposite. A juicy ripe apple with a green worm inside. Wow. My theory is that every apple, whether rotten or ripe on the outside, has a tiny little green worm inside that's just dying to crawl out. And one day, it will. I'll give you all 30 minutes to applaud for that. Thank you so much. So I don't know, I never heard back from the Pulitzer Prize Committee about that poem. I don't know why. But I was thinking about this idea of normalcy and the status quo from a very young age. And in many ways, this book is kind of a summation of my 33 years long self-funded scientific study on normalcy. And really it's the question, does normal even exist? And I won't answer that so as not to spoil the book, but short answer is, of course it doesn't exist. If you think normal exists, you're dumb and basic. Of course it doesn't exist. So this book it's not just essays. It's kind of a collection of essays and other things centered around my very personal experiences. And I say other things because yes, there are memoir-y essays, but there is also erotic poetry that I wrote in the 5th grade. It's steamy. An exploration of my adult obsession with amusement parks in the form of an amusement park map. And when I talk about my Golden Globe win, so as to take myself down from my pedestal, I do it in the voice of my dog and her account of that night because she didn't give a crap and doesn't know what a Golden Globe is and will never, and doesn't even know my name. Because when you get notes that say loser slipped into your locker, and then what feels like a short time later, you're on a red carpet and accepting a big award, and you still basically feel like the same person, it really throws into question, okay, well, the establishment didn't accept me, but now they suddenly do, but I feel the same. So what is the establishment? What's real? Was this real? Was the previous thing real? Or are we just at the whim of how society chooses to perceive you at any given moment? And where do Spanx fit in? I don't know. So I could say that my book is for the weirdos out there, for the losers, but what I've learned is that everyone kind of thinks they're a weirdo, that no one fits in. And this comes from me talking to my former bullies, which I talk about in the book, to people I've met at various events who are infinitely more successful and or famous than I am. I've noticed that everyone kind of has imposter syndrome unless they're an absolute psychopath. No one feels quite in their own skin. I actually, in prepping to do press for this book, I'm going to be doing an event where I talk to my 5th grade bully. And I found my bully by reaching out on my Facebook saying, hey, did I go to middle school or high school with you? Were you popular? Were you a bully? Were you maybe my bully? I'd love to hear from you. And what was interesting was, in addition to hearing from bullies, I heard from people from all different spectrums across the social cast. And no one person was like, I was popular. Even the people I know who were popular, they were like, I didn't really fit in, but maybe I was popular, but I don't think I was. You tell me. Everyone was just as insecure and unsure of where they fit in. And I find that so refreshing. And then the thing is, as I was writing this book when I was pregnant, and I finished my first draft, and I went off to give birth, and that was in late March. And so I have this whole book about normalcy, and then I give birth in the hospital in a time when COVID was just getting bad. So the hospital is, as I'm giving birth, around me adapting to COVID. They're moving furniture up from another floor because they're turning the floor below into a COVID floor. My daughter is born. She has fluid in her lungs, so she is in the NICU. So suddenly I not only have a baby, but I have a baby in the NICU. And then my songwriting partner, Adam Schlesinger, unbeknownst to me, the same day I gave birth, was put on a ventilator in New York for having COVID-19, and a week later he died. So my life was thrown into complete disarray, and suddenly any idea I had of normal was thrown out the window. And I think that what happened to me was an exaggerated version of what's happening to everyone else, which is life has suddenly been just thrown so out of place. So when people read this book, I hope that they don't feel alone from, even if we were in the normal world, let's pretend there's no COVID, nothing. That by bearing my biggest fears and insecurities and vulnerabilities, that people can read about the worst parts of me and go, oh, I have that too. Oh, maybe I'm not so crazy after all. Or they can be like, okay, I'm not as crazy as that chick. That chick's weird. But also it can be an escape, because I'm talking about getting bullied and mental health, which are very important issues, but it's also not issues like the world ending. And if nothing else, you can read the takedown I have of straight men in musical theater, which is lovely and delightful, and escape from this cruel world for a couple of minutes. And so I want to be where the normal people are. And I welcome your questions, concerns, and preemptive criticisms.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I gotta say that, I'm reading the book now, and everything that you say is in there, and just I don't know, just like the compassion and the honesty. I mean, yes, of course you're hilarious and really funny, but just I feel like that it just comes from such like a good place. And for me, already reading it, just like, yeah, just those moments of like, oh my gosh, that was me, or I friends or family that a very similar like experience. So I really appreciate the book already, and I think I'm really excited just for it to come out, and I think it'll have such a positive impact for so many people.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. So Ben.
Hi there.
How's it going? Quick introduction. Ben is a New York-based writer and screenwriter with an encyclopedic knowledge, I've found out, of CW teen dramas. Born in Haiti and raised in Montreal, Canada, he has a Bachelor of Arts from Columbia University and an MFA from the Michener Center for Writers in Austin, Texas. He has written 2 young adult novels, Field Guide to the North American Teenager, which was the winner of the 2020 William C. Morris Award, and Charming as a Verb, which I'm in the middle of. I got an advance copy of right now. And then here to discuss Sure, I'll Be Your Black Friend is his first book of adult nonfiction. If you'd like to learn more, you should check out his website, where not only does he continue to be funny, but you can learn many great things, including his favorite Disney animated movie, Gasp. His book is a candid memoir and essays chronicling a lifetime of being the Black friend. See also foreign kid, boyfriend, coworker, student, teacher, roommate, enemy, in predominantly white spaces. Extraordinarily timely. He covers topics such as stereotypes, slurs, how much Beyonce is too much Beyonce, the Black Lives Matter movements, and other topics both light and heavy, which revealed the need for connection in all of us. And I think it's kind of a running theme for the evening. So without further ado, Ben Philippe.
Hi, everyone. First of all, Rachel, that wasn't really a bad poem. Like, it flowed, it had rhythm to it. It shows that you know music, because I lived through that poem, so I just wanted to give you that.
Wow, thank you, Ben. That means a lot. And I have some thinking to do.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe the career path that ended up with you getting all those awards, maybe that wasn't the right way. Maybe being a poet / barista, just something to consider.
Yeah, I'll basically just take a paragraph and break it up into what looks like a poem, because that's seemingly what I did at age 12. So I thank you very much.
I ventured into one poetry workshop once, and I think that's what they all did. I left the class after 3 weeks, and when I emailed the teacher, they were like, yeah, it's really not for everyone. So I'm like, okay, I think I was expecting like a peppy, no, you should stay type of speech. But hi, I'm Ben Philippe. And yes, I will be your Black friend. This is a nonfiction book that feels very, very narcissistic to talk about, because it might look like, oh, you just wanted to sell a book and you just glimpsed at a mirror. And that's kind of what happened. Throughout my life, I was born in Haiti, raised in Montreal, Canada. And then I moved here to the United States for college, first New York City, and then Texas, and now I'm back. And it's just been a little all over. But in all those spaces, aside from building up this weird accent, I've made a lot of white friends. It just sort of happened that way. It happened because in Haiti, my parents were sort of like upwardly mobile, and my dad really wanted to send me to the really expensive kindergarten, so I would make friends with the white kids and the children of like foreign workers who happened to live in Haiti, because he had aspirations of a political career. That really didn't work out, but that was the gist. My mandate when I was 6 years old was go in there, make white friends. Then we moved to Canada, and I lived actually 3 hours away from Montreal in a little town called Sherbrooke, and I was the Black kid there. That's not like a euphemism or exaggerating. There were 358 of us, and I was the only Black one. And honestly, for a little while, it was kind of fun. Because I think it was like the first time these kids were seeing like someone who looked different. So, can I touch your hair? Yes! And then we're best friends for 2 years. It was great. That's the level of threshold that people who are friends with me should expect. I can give you that emotional availability of letting you touch my hair. Or at least I could when I was like 7 years old. But, you know, kids grow, they consume media, racism becomes a thing, and it's weird to say, but it felt like at some point everyone around me became aware of the difference between Black and white before I did. And I remember sort of like kids passing a note in the 5th grade, and it was just this game they were playing where they were ranking the races, and white was at the top and Black was at the bottom. Went white, Latino, that was pre-Latinx, and Asian, and then Black at the bottom. And just little things like that that just started to seep into the world and made my teenage years, my preteen years, unfun. But then, you know, things balanced out. I don't think there's a single person out there that had an uneventful childhood where everything was kind of great. My parents got divorced because the North American dream of Canada didn't really work out. So lots of stuff happened. I was just trying to like figure myself out. And I was filled with all those little memories of like, that was a weird thing that happened. Hey, remember when your first girlfriend said that like you were her Black boyfriend and introduced you to her parents that way? That was strange. Years later in college, I would learn that these things are called microaggressions. So thank you, sociology, and $60,000 of student debt. But at the time, I hadn't really processed all of that, but these memories stayed with me. And when I started to write this book, it started as like a lexicon, just to talk about like terms that I knew. What is an Oreo? Black on the outside, white on the inside, Black girl magic, stuff like that. But then eventually it kind of became essays about my life, because all writers are just narcissists. We're kind of good at adverbs. And then this fun year happened out of nowhere. So I asked my editors for a slide extension and like, hey, the draft you're gonna get, it's gonna be a little angrier than you expected. I know the proposal was really fun and very heavy on jokes, but the draft, those last 20,000 words, I don't know where all that anger comes from. But my editor was great, Amber Oliver, and she just like, hey, I'm gonna call you. And then we talked a lot, and I just sort of like processed my feelings as a Haitian now living in America and seeing everything that this country is going through. And also not being surprised by it too much, because I think that was the biggest thing. For a lot of people this past year, they were genuinely shocked at the state of the world that they live in. They thought that, oh, well, this happens in Alabama, this happens in Texas. No, it happens in New York City. It happens in sort of like liberal arts environment. And I generally sympathize with that realization. And like I said, I have a lot of white friends or white acquaintances, and my DMs and my inbox and my text messages were just a lot of conversations happening all at once. And I really credit this book with a lot of like my mental health, because I was able to just process through all of it, because then I would have like, why am I hugging you about racism? You are a teeny tiny blonde white woman. Why am I doing this? So those were feelings I had. And also I had friends that I really thought, quote unquote, got it, who were like texting me, well, don't you think they're going too far with the statues? And would you feel differently about it if you weren't Black? And it was just sort of like basically reconsidering all those microaggressions weren't as micro as I thought, that it all adds up into this weird pit of rage that I didn't know what to do with, so that I just proceeded to just rewrite the entire manuscript from the top down to just talk about that rage. Hopefully it's still funny. It still goes through all my awkwardness, and I really cannot stretch how awkward life has been. And once you remove that veil of like, I'm going to pretend to be a functioning human being, which Rachel's book sort of like did for me, once you lift that veil, the weirdness can just flow, and it's kind of empowering to just be like fully uncensored. So the word Spanx came up earlier. I was a very chubby little boy. Did I steal my mom's Spanx and wear them under my school clothes? I absolutely did. Did people notice while I was in class? They absolutely did.
Oh.
I know.
Wait, were Spanx? Was it a Spanx or precursor to Spanx?
What is a precursor to Spanx?
Well, wait, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 31.
Oh, no, it was sort of a precursor, because Spanx didn't come out until, this is your presentation.
No, this is like, I might need to call back the manuscript, go.
Spanx came out in like, I want to say around like maybe 2005, 2006.
Oh.
So I'm curious what you borrowed or what you think Spanx is.
Okay, in Haitian Creole, they call them gants. And it's sort of like a tight, I cannot believe this is the conversation I'm having with Rachel Bloom. It is nightmarish, but it's like a tight athleisure situation that you put under your clothes, and that just tightens everything up.
Yeah, that's basically Spanx. Never mind.
So that was a precursor to Spanx?
Well, I mean, I guess Spanx is because it's a brand.
But
that's just because it's a brand. It's like how Kleenex has become like what we call tissue, but like it's this one company. But that is literally like, that's what Spanx are. So you put that under your clothes.
I put that under my clothes. I was growing in awkward ways I had not predicted. So just like there was more here than I thought, less with the biceps that I expected to get, like every boy, big Haitian butt. And I just thought like a Spanx would just like, or a precursor to Spanx would just like tighten everything up. And it kind of did, very slimming lines. But once people notice, it's game over. 7th grade will never be the same ever again. So yeah, that did happen.
Wait, and then you're in your what's the Haitian word for that? Because I want to Google that.
Gains, like gains, but like pronounced with a Creole accent.
Very excited. Still on you. So I'll mute myself once more. Back to you.
Please ask questions, because what's going to happen is that if I'm not interrupted in some ways, I'll just keep talking about it. I'll keep talking about like the fact that it kind of felt good, just to sort of like have control of how your body was going to look. And that's just, we don't need to go into that can of worms. That is just.
No, it absolutely does. And I know men who have worn shapewear, usually when they're acting, but I think we look at things like Spanx as, oh, is it anti-feminist? But there is something of, it also just makes you feel good and presentable, and I'm so sorry you got made fun of for that.
Yeah.
That's okay. If it helps, I'm a very petty person. And like I did the thing where I Googled all their lives and went on Facebook. And like it was game over after age 19. So really, I'm good. But yeah, I do think that it's a thing that now I teach at a women's college. I have friends who are non-binary. Like there are so many labels that we put on these things. It's just a piece of cloth, really. And just sort of like kind of changes your entire experience of your own body. So there's something kind of fascinating about that. When Eric saw that little extra skin, that was a different skin tone than my regular skin though. That was an unfun day. And the book is filled with a lot of these, but hopefully I make it fun, because when I look back at it, life is just kind of ridiculous. Like the concepts that we ascribe meaning to, what you're expected to know, like, care about because of your ethnicity, is wild to me. I'm not going to do it now, but I was the black guy who loved to sing the theme song to Sailor Moon. Whereas like when I started to make black friends, I think the expectation was that, oh, how come you don't know rap? How come you're so like uncultured in the things you're expected to be cultured about? And that can be a lot to juggle at that age. I powered through it. And I think those are sort of like the big topics that I try to address. And I hope, even though I sort of like accidentally stumbled into that pit of anger, I still really love all my friends, whatever their ethnicities are. So I talk about how to live on common grounds with people when there is that sort of like, when those little microaggressions, when those little unpleasant knuckles happen. What do? Do you forward an angry email and then block them on all platforms? No, because then you might end up being alone and lonely. So I have friends who have views that are different from me. I have hard lines that like, oh, if you think this way, if you vote this way, we can't be friends. Like I had to sort of define those boundaries for myself. But there are friends that are just like, my parents are super conservative. I love you, Ben. I have this view or that view. And if they're willing to have a conversation with me, I'm always open to talking about anything. And I've had all those questions from my friends. I had to change all the names twice. Because before, I think I changed them from like Marty to Marvin. And I'm like, well, he's still going to know it's him. And then edit it up at that.
Real quick.
And I can't wait to read your book. It sounds so good.
Thank you so much. Yours too. And like, yeah, we all thought we were a Disney character when we were younger. And that sort of like defined us for a long time.
Yeah, it's kind of this aspirational. We're of that generation where like it's like it's this like aspirational thing, but it's why every movie that's coming out now is kind of a takedown of tropes, because we were raised on so many of these happy tropes, and now we're like, wait a second, life's not like Aladdin.
No, Aladdin did not have nipples. Go back and look. He never had nipples. I think draw nipples on Aladdin. Go.
Okay.
Really?
I'm sorry. I'm straight up Googling Aladdin.
And when you notice it, you will never unsee it for the rest of your life.
What do you mean he never had
Because Aladdin's going to be my favorite.
In my head, he has nipples.
He doesn't.
Huh.
Wait.
There are invented nipples in your head, which is like an added layer of like self-inquiry that we don't need to do while looking at Disney cartoons. I always thought Jasmine was the
doesn't. Oh, that's
really?
So weird. Just for anyone who wants to see. See, he doesn't have nipples.
No.
Huh.
I'm really glad we're discussing this.
I mean, buy your books. This is the insight you get.
I think the conversation has gone to a great place.
Yeah. They're going to really want to buy our book and sell our book now.
Right. Especially, I mean, Ben, you kind of blew my mind because Aladdin was my favorite Disney animated, and now I'm just like, I know my whole childhood. I know nothing now, I guess, because I'm like, did not remember the nipple thing.
You only liked him for the nipples.
Yeah.
That's the question. That's the thing you have to sort of like analyze about yourself. He's no longer your favorite because he no longer has nipples. Why? How come?
I'm already seeing a few questions in the Q&A. One of my favorites so far is who needs questions when Rachel and Ben are great at interviewing just one another. So the back and forth, I think, is
Ben,
just...
tell me about your own nipples. How do you feel about them? Could you erase them with a vest if you could?
I didn't know what they were because I had Aladdin posters all over the place. And I was like, Mom, I have 2 weird things on my chest that I really don't know where they come from. I think I'm broken.
The only half-naked man you ever saw, other than yourself, was Aladdin.
Yeah. And if you're comparing yourself to that riffraff, street trash, handsome, debonair guy, you're probably the one who thinks like your body's in the wrong.
There's a book here.
There is.
If you guys partnered on a book, that would be amazing.
Literally, it would just be discussions of nipples of the men of Disney. That's all
It
it
would
would
be about nipples and men wearing Spanx, which probably would sell.
Yeah, and also, what was Gaston so afraid of? Because that dude was afraid of something.
I think he was afraid of Gaston.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah. This is my favorite event I've attended this whole conference. I gotta say, this is so much fun. I'm just gonna put that out there. I do have a quick question, if I could ask both of you. So if you could, I feel like you both have kind of spoken about, who you kind of hope your books will kind of impact and influence. If there's one person out there that you could, they're going to get your book, they have to read it, not like forced, but they have to read it. But that one person, they were like, I would love for, whoever it is. Do you have that one or two famous people, anybody that you can think of that you would love to get your book to?
Rachel?
I stumbled.
I mean, honestly, you've been.
Yeah, Rachel Bloom. That's my thing. I have an entire sort of like moment planned.
That's an interest. There's no one like famous who comes to mind. I think that anyone who feels that something might be off about them or their lives and whatever that means to them. I obviously use specifics from my own life. There's a lot about my experiences being a theater kid. So if you are a theater kid or were a theater kid for that matter, book is not for children. There are things in that for you, but that's, anyone who like feels like they're an outcast and can't pinpoint why and maybe doesn't want to admit certain things to themselves, maybe this book will help.
Yeah. Awesome.
I thought a lot about that question. I was like, am I writing this book for Black people or for white people? And ultimately, I think I'm writing it for anyone who's ever had to navigate like a distance, possibly racial in this case, in a friendship with someone. Like there are things that you just can't ask your friends, especially in this like climate we're in. And hopefully the book can bring some sort of insight into what that experience is from the other side. Like, it's a trope, but that they're like every quote unquote racist person out there will say that, I have a Black friend. And this kind of like gives a little bit of insight into the experience of that Black friend, that person that you genuinely consider to be your friend, and that smiles when you say something problematic and when they feel awkward or lessened by you. What were they thinking in that moment? And I think that's the set of experiences that my book will hopefully put out there.
That's awesome. One quick question from the Q&A for Rachel. What are you working on next?
Let's see. It's a bunch of irons in the fire that aren't officially irons until someone gives me money to make them irons. I am still working on the music for the Nanny Broadway musical. I have some television show pitches that I am noodling on. It's some movie pitches that I'm noodling on. I'll show you what, like, I don't think you can really read it, but like, this is like, that's my noodles, right?
Yeah.
So that's all like, it's that wall, the wall of cards. So I promise you I'm working on things. And then occasionally putting myself on tape for auditions, which I still do.
Nice.
Oh, and also I'm a mom. I have a 6-month-old daughter. So her in the background. That's the main thing I'm working on is being topless many parts of the day and feeding someone with my body and learning about this whole other aspect of life.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Very busy. That's awesome. Ben, we got one for you. It is, so I am super into cosplay, and now I am definitely going to cosplay Aladdin because of you, Ben. Thank you. Can we expect any cosplay fun in your book at all?
You can expect like a very, very fraught Yu-Gi-Oh cards tournament when I was a teenager because I was just a prom king in the making, clearly. I didn't do cosplay then, but I was actually a big comic book fan, and I interned for Marvel, and they didn't pay us back. I interned for like the comic book side of things. They did not pay us at all, but they have a closet filled with like really, really high-end costumes that they use for promotions at Comic-Con. And occasionally they would let us play in it. Really, this entire conversation has been about me trying on like tight clothes. That's what we're getting here. So that was my closest adventure towards cosplay.
Nice.
Also, Marvel comic books has plenty of money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Paid.
Yeah.
The fact that they were like, you can play in our dress-up box like you were children is insulting.
They were sued later, like by the following class of interns. And one day I think I got a check for like $400 in the mail, like 7 years later, which I gladly accepted. But it was part of that entire like infrastructure of New York City that really relied on cool internships. Like when you were in college, it's like, oh, this place, this like playwriting program, this imprint, the studio, they have an unpaid internship. Just if you like it enough, you can be free labor for them. That was a thing.
I did a bunch of those.
Yeah.
I was the SNL intern. I was an SNL intern for college credit, and I think later there was a similar lawsuit about labor, and you could file in the class action lawsuit. But I think at the time I was like, I might pitch a show to NBC. I don't want them to be mad, so I didn't collect my like $150, which I regret. And then I was a straight up intern for a theater company where I read scripts, and like it was really cool. But I was also an intern for a theater where I was basically an unpaid usher, but I could watch the shows for free. So is that infrastructure gone from New York City now?
Legally it is. They're not allowed to do that anymore because I did Viacom, I did MTV, The New Yorker, like all those big names that you're like, oh God, I get to work for that place, and your paycheck is zero.
Yeah.
You have to find another job on top of it to be able to be the intern. Hopefully it's gone.
Oh. One last question, I think, and
I see so many questions popping up in the chat.
There's so many and so many comments of like everyone's having a great time with the conversation, but one that I think is really just spot on for the evening, and for to Rachel, do you have any advice for my middle school daughter how to stay true to her weird self and not to try hard to fit in and be liked?
Oh.
Right? Yeah.
Well, first of all, that she's not alone, that she's not weird for wanting to be liked, and that even though it seems that the kids who are liked, it seems effortless, inside, it's not. They're just as scared. I have talked now to kids who are popular in middle school. I had coffee with my main middle school bully, and she was like, oh, I was insecure in middle school. I was terrified of losing my popularity because it's all I had. I also had OCD, which, so just know that like everyone is going through it. And I've tried to be like other people. As an uncool person, I've tried to like do impressions of what I thought was cool. It only makes things worse. You can only be yourself. And so just try to find at least one person who you feel gets you and cling to them, and know that middle school is truly the worst period in basically everyone's life, and it will end.
And if I can add, that was so great. If I can add like one tiny thing to that, everybody wants friends. I think that's what I was nodding most furiously at. You're not weird for being like, I really wish I had some friends. I think when I had my most unpopular moments in life, my parents, they're first generation immigrants. They're like, I work 50 hours a week just to put food on the table for you. Like, you not having friends is not a big deal. When you're in middle school, it's a huge deal. Like, oh God, I wish I knew where all the kids laughing and saying nothing were going to after school while you're waiting at the bus stop. Like, I think minimizing the experience for young people doesn't help them. So just like trying to empathize with how hellish that must be is what I would recommend.
Yeah. Absolutely. So many like great little words of wisdom, and just, the middle school is just such a tough time. Just all around it, like Rachel was saying, like universal. So just a question I thought was really, really great to kind of, someone great to hear from. Getting to the end here, Ben, we got one question. Ben, I love charming as a verb. If your characters in that book could be in any Disney animated movie, which Disney movie would you put them in?
Oh, first of all, I love all the Disney happening here. An
Right.
underrated Disney movie is The Emperor's New Groove. It is really, really funny. No princesses, but it is so funny. And the animation is excellent because CGI was getting like kind of in vogue at the time. And it is one of the most solid experiences. So everyone would be in that one. Everyone.
I reference that movie all the time. I was on a Zoom call 2 days ago with there was a high profile movie script that wanted notes from me, which I don't get asked to do a lot, so I was very flattered. But it was an animated movie script, and I was like, I don't know if you've seen The Emperor's New Groove, but I think that's a template for this movie. I reference that movie all the time. It's a great movie. 100% agree.
It's so good.
And, you're getting some affirmation. I know this isn't a chat, but Emperor's New Groove is my favorite Disney movie of all time.
Oh, can we look at that in the chat?
Sorry, it's in the Q&A.
I know we're not supposed to look at the Q&A, but...
Go for it.
Oh, this is fun.
All right.
How long is this event?
Well, technically 3 minutes.
Oh, 30? Never mind.
3 minutes. Yeah. We can tackle one more if you want. I was really excited about
delightedly going through this Q&A. But you go.
So I just was really kind of thought, Rachel, this one was really funny. You mentioned The Exorcist. Can you maybe, can we write an Exorcist musical?
There is, I think. Oh, no, I'm thinking of Carrie. An Exorcist musical. Well, I saw there was, I think, is that what the play I saw? There was a play of The Exorcist I saw, and it was very bad.
Ooh.
But I think an Exorcist musical would be quite fun. So let's talk.
I love how you're breaking the story. I can see it on your face right now. You're
well, do you make it campy? Do you make it really serious? Is the devil like? Do you have Reagan, and then like is the devil like a second actor who comes out and is just like, I'm the devil? There are a lot of ways to do it.
That is a director's mind, people.
Thank you so much.
Maybe this will earn a little post-it on the wall. So we're rapidly nearing the end. Getting to the end of the evening. I want to.
That was so fast.
Right? I just 45 minutes kind of comes and goes, but I want to thank you both so much. This was so much fun to hear from both of you. I'm so excited for both of your books, for what they touch on, and I really do think, just both of you just are both so funny, but then also so like compassionate and honest and open that I just see so many great things for both of your books. So if you're on the call right now, please make sure your bookstore has got these books on the shelves. Thank you both so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thanks, everyone. Rachel, I'm a huge fan. I've been normal this entire time, but I'm such a huge fan of you.
Thank you. Ben, I'm now such a fan of yours. I can't wait to read your book, and I just started following you on Twitter, and your book sounds so awesome. I saw it comes out in April 2021. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. We have to give the dates. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah,
April
go for it. Yeah.
27th, 2021. Yes. When does your book come out?
November 17th. So you're ahead of the game on this.
I'm like 6 months. Buy her book now. My God, pre-order.
Yeah, it's gonna be It's in the middle of the I mean, it's right post-election, and I think Obama releases a book on the same day. But buy my book, sell my book. I'm really selling myself.
I'm a huge fan of
That
Barry.
Obama guy, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a laugh, and I think yours will give me something that his won't.
Yeah.
Thank you. I often say that about my writing compared to Obama's as well.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.